get action again. Okay, new business. Final design review and approval. I think it's at the board meeting with best interest. Right now, if we let Mike and Melanie sort of at the biggest majority of this over, since she was involved and Mike has looked over a lot of it. We can step in any time we need to or think we should, but I think that would be the right and proper way to handle this as of right now. So, Mike, if you want to take over, we will sit back and listen.
Well, I think it probably makes sense. I think we all have a copy of the letter that was sent to us by Murphy Graves Trimble. So why don't we just let you all present your information.
Sure.
We discussed the last meeting that you were going to bring to us today.
Melanie sent us an email on Friday, I think it was, that asked us to pull all this together. So we got this together yesterday morning. There's a couple of pieces to it. You requested that we give you a summary of how all the invoices were applied, what work went into them. So the first invoice was essentially, we were hired in 2010. The first time we invoiced was in July of 2014. So there was 4 years of time there where the previous board, we investigated a few things. Those concepts are in this book that I've left with Melanie. At that time though, that schematic design wound up with a 9,000 square foot addition to the existing church. It had an approximate cost of about $2.7 million. Okay, so that was the result of those first 4 years, was that concept. Okay, and we did schematic design for that. The next group of invoices you see there, those were all applied to a 14,650 square foot new facility. So the previous board elected to take the existing church down. That was after we went through the existing church, had it analyzed by structural engineers. You found that the floor loading wouldn't really support much, and in the end you decided a new facility, or that group decided a new facility would better serve your purposes. So that 14,650 square foot building had an approximate construction cost of $3.363 million. We got as far as 25% through the working drawings of that project, which is this roll of drawings here we brought for everybody, when the project was stopped last December. Okay, so that was about 45% of the total fee, and that's what the last invoice represented. New board came on first of the year. That next invoice was you all asking us to look at a new site in town. We had to gather data on the property. We had to see what all the property lines were, work with surveyors, and then did a layout, kind of a new floor plan to test that site. We also did work to see what we could do to add on to this building. And am I correct that we also looked at a 2-story? So that was one of the options that we looked at. So that was an hourly rate service just to do those studies, and that's that balance. Then the last invoice there is for all the work since March, which is reflected in the new schematic that you all were looking at here just this last week. Not having a clear direction in the final version, we have just billed that hourly. In terms of the contract would be, we can simply convert that to the schematic design phase if you all give us that approval. But short of that, we've invoiced for that time since March. Okay? Second page then is you all ask us to give you fee proposals, and given the concern we heard last week when I was here, I went ahead and gave you a couple of different options. Okay? Understanding that the previous board did authorize us to go a certain distance down a new building that looked like the church, like the image we have back here. One of your options would be that was again about 14,600 square feet. You want to build 10,000 now, so we could make changes to that plan. And we said we'd do that hourly rate until we got a plan that you liked. And then once that was approved, then we could take the balance of the fee that the previous board had paid and finish up those drawings. So it would be finishing that previous design, and we've estimated to finish that up, that fee there is listed. That's option one. Option two is going forward as you all asked us to do in March, which is the concept behind this and the elevations that we looked at last week. If we want to go forward with that based on the terms of the contract, that's the fee amount to finish the project up. So we tried to be as helpful as possible, just give you as many options. You know, you all are in a difficult situation, and we're trying to help you out all we can.
So let me ask you a couple of questions to make sure I understand. The schematic designs that you have discussed with us at the last meeting, it's your perspective that that was a brand new project, separate and apart from what had been done throughout the
Yes.
time that you've been working for the
Yes.
board. Was there a discussion? I wasn't here in March.
Okay.
Was there a discussion about that being a new, basically a new project that you were working on and not working on what had previously been done?
Well, I think our understanding was, direction from the board is we wanted a new look. We didn't want it to look like the church. And then we proceeded to ask for changes to the plan. So I don't know if it was clearly stated, but it was our understanding from the board that they wished to start anew.
We went from 14,000 square
To 10.
feet to 10.
Okay. As I understand it, one of the problems, or one of the features of the original design was that you were going to use the old church structure, remodel it, and then add to it, you know, on the back.
That very first invoice.
Right. And was there any analysis or inspection or any effort to determine the condition of the old church before substantial work was performed to contemplate utilizing that church? Because it ended up, as I understand it, that the church wasn't in a condition that it could be used.
I don't think that's quite accurate. I think I would say that the church was not suitable for any library stack loading. The concept that we had office, had reading areas, things like that in it. But it did certainly offer some limitations in terms of the ideal layout.
Right.
And so I think that's when the board said, we don't want to make those compromises, so let's take the church down.
Well, I thought part of the problem though was that there was a discovery of the utilities that were behind the church that would prevent the layout that you all are suggesting.
Well, yeah, there's a couple of different things. So this concept took those into account. Now, we did discover that there was an easement that was not recorded. We had to find out that dimension. It did cause us to shift a little bit. We did a concept for the interview to show what was possible. That was before any surveys were done. So we didn't know about some of those lines running right through the middle of the site. But that's not what's been invoiced for. So that was just our first concept before we had any details. So the schematic design that's in here, the 9,000 square foot addition, was essentially in line with the church and worked to avoid those. As I say, we did then discover there was an easement that wasn't recorded, and it caused us to tweak some. And most of that really came to effect in the next concept when we were doing new.
I don't have it in front of me. Remind me how much y'all could pay so far.
We've been paid, it looks to be fee amount of $142,753 to date.
142.
753. 29,250 of that was for that first invoice, the different concept, the first 4 years. And the balance, the remaining roughly 113 or so, was for this set of drawings.
Excuse me just a second, I'm showing that you have been paid to date, or you have withdrawn to date, exactly $145,990.46.
Yep. What you are not accounting for there are reimbursables and one hourly rate invoice that was an additional service requested by the board at the time.
So, what has the board spent? I guess this may be a better question.
I'm sorry?
What has the board spent with regard to your services, whether it's reimbursable? Is that 145,990, is that accurate?
Let me look.
Melanie, when we shut that account, how much did you withdraw?
49 something.
All right, wait just a second. It's 195,000 put in, exactly, am I right? Minus 49,000 roughly. It comes to 146,000. So, was that reimbursed? Because I'm showing you withdrawed 145,990
That's what I'm
at
coming up with.
46, so,
So that's accurate, the 140?
The 149,990.
That's accurate
That's what I show,
as an amount that we've spent.
including additional services and reimbursables.
Okay. All right. I think one of the concerns that the board has, I'm hoping that you can help us understand, is that I think what I see here, okay, I may be using the wrong word, so correct me if I am, but what I see here is some completion through the design development phase. Is that accurate?
These drawings,
Well, yes.
they're 25% through the working drawings phase.
The work, well, what does the working drawings phase, what does that mean?
It's probably up on it, contractors, construction.
Yeah, construction documents would be the phrase you'd want to use.
Okay, that's what I'm looking for.
Sure.
Because I was looking at the contract and was trying to understand where we were. And just so everybody's on the same page, I'm looking at section 11.5 of the contract, it's on page 19. So there was a contemplated schematic design phase, a design development phase, and construction documents phase.
Yes.
And those three items together, as I understand the structure of the contract, would put the project at 75% complete if those things were completed.
Those were.
If those
yes,
were completed.
Correct.
But I think what you're telling us is that of that 75% of the project, as your role is concerned, 45% of that is complete. Is
Just
that
want to
right?
be sure you understand, if the project were 100% all the way through bidding and construction, so that's the total contract, 25% of the construction documents is 45% of the overall fee.
Say that again.
25% of the construction document phase is equal to 45% of the entire fee. And the way that's broken out is schematic design is 15%, design development is 20%, which takes you to 35%. The construction documents phase is a total of 40%. So if we got 25% through that, that's another 10, which takes us to 45% of the total fee.
Okay. So then, when we look at your invoices and see that we've spent $145,000. Now, I think the budget, as we talked about last time, if the architect fee was 7.5%, and it was 7.5% of the construction budget, if I remember right, it would be $183,000. Roughly.
You have to include the construction management fee on top of the construction
Oh,
cost.
the contract says 7% plus the construction management fee.
Okay.
And the documents that you gave us last time said that the architect fee was 7.5%.
Okay.
I think that included that.
Okay, good. All right,
Uh,
thank you.
So, I just in my notes, I think I had that amount was 183. We've been using 195 simply because that's what total severance money put in escrow. It wasn't the fee, it was simply the money we had for the fee.
Okay.
So I think that it was 183. So I'm saying it like it's right, but I'm really asking a question. Are we, or am I correct in understanding that we're 25% of the way through the work that we were paid for, but we've paid 80%?
No, sir, you're,
Of
well,
our budget, of what.
potentially
contract.
of your budget, not of what you contracted with us for. So you have to keep in mind that the previous board said design us an addition renovation to the existing church. All right, so they spent that first invoice was for that amount. That was 4 years of work. So that was the 29,250. Right? That was a certain design, and then the board went a different direction, so we began again. So you can't count that first 29 against the package that they drew, because first it was an addition renovation, then it was tear down to do a new concept. So the first 29 does not apply to the fee that was paid to this, which is what I tried to describe there in that letter.
Okay, well, so that's, if we disregarded that and said, well, you know, we took a shot at it, we spent $29,000, but we're gonna put that in the trash can. If that's what happened, we've still paid 63% of our money, under the contract to get to a point where we're not anywhere near completion, or even halfway through.
Right. Yes. So if you'll, thank you, Chuck. If you'll look at the invoices that we provided to Melanie, the other issue you have to keep in mind is that the drawings that we were doing was for a larger building and had a larger cost and therefore had a larger fee. So you're trying to work to the 195, but that
Oh, you're saying at that point, the 7.5% was of a larger construction.
was of a larger construction project. Yes, sir.
All right.
That's outlined right there.
Yeah. Thank you, Chuck.
But that was for the $29,000 that you said that we had already paid, right?
No, sir. No, sir. So the 29,000 you paid was for an addition renovation to the old church. This set of drawings was for a project that was going to cost $3.363 million.
For construction costs or
For
for
construction.
project costs?
Construction costs, all right? And so therefore, the fee basis was higher, and that's in those invoices. I know it's very difficult to put together 4 years of history.
That would be, So let me, again, part of this is because I wasn't involved early on, but I understand that in the beginning, at least part of the coal severance money was put into an escrow account of $195,000 that we've talked about. And your firm was given essentially check writing authority on that account, so you could draw down from that escrow account for your invoices. Am I understanding that right?
I don't know if that's the phrase I would use. Every time that we completed work, we sent an invoice, we presented to the board, and then we did draw down based against that presentation that work completed.
Okay, because maybe I misunderstood, but I thought that what was happening was that you would send an invoice that was indicated that it was already paid.
Yes. All of them.
Could,
So if you, I'm just wanting to understand.
Yeah, sure.
But, so it was a situation where you generated an invoice, you paid it by accessing the escrow account, and then sent the invoice to the board for their information.
I'd have to look at the details. I think we sent the invoice to the board, and then a few days later may have processed it, I'm not sure.
Because that, I mean, really, when we talk about this and we get down to the, I think one of the, maybe the primary concern is the amount that's left, or was left in the escrow account. And I think, having the benefit of hindsight, not having been here in the beginning, I think part of the problem is that there was some turnover in the board, so you didn't have what some people call it institutional memory of what was happening. But as I look at the invoices, I'm looking at, I guess specifically, the invoice of January 8th, 2015. It's an invoice for approximately $3,000, $3,086. $3,000.86. You see that one?
Yes.
That invoice, is this all of them? That invoice,
Those are the last ones there. That's got the paper clip. That's just when we actually put the money in escrow, so those won't apply to.
Okay.
All the invoices are there in front of you though.
all right. Yeah, that invoice, as I can tell, is the only one that breaks the cost of services out for hourly expenses.
Yes.
So that indicates to me that invoice is the invoice that charges something beyond basic services that are defined in the contract.
Correct.
Okay, all right, so,
And you'll see that those hourly rate services are for revisions. Now, I'd have to put all of our heads together and see what that was. And I also want to point out that invoice was dated January the 8th.
Yes.
Paid by transfer on May 11th. So,
okay. So, and this is where I want to make sure I understand the contract, because if I don't understand the contract, I can't properly advise the board here. I wasn't involved in the negotiation or the
I
discussion
understand,
of the
folks. Y'all are
contract.
trying to catch up on a lot.
So as I understood the contract, the 7.5% contemplated your firm providing these services throughout these 5 phases of the project. The schematic design, design development, construction documents, bidding, negotiation, and construction. And if it's a perfect world and things move through those phases and there's I'm sure always tweaks and changes, things come up that you don't anticipate. But those basic services that are defined in the contract are contemplated to be fully paid when the 7.5% of the contract is paid. Right? I mean, if it's not a basic service, it's a hourly rate because
It's
it's
an
beyond,
additional service.
it's beyond the basic service, right?
Correct.
And the basic services portion of the contract is expected to be enough to finish the construction of the project, right?
No, I can't acknowledge that. I think what I
Okay.
would say is the basic services are outlined in the contract of what we provide. At the end of a phase, if we're required to go back and rework something, which I assume we were here by these changes, then those are additional services.
Okay. But that's I guess where my lack of understanding comes in is of all the invoices that we have here, only $3,000 contemplates an additional service, something beyond the basic services. Yet the basic services that you say are complete is far less than what the basic services are that we pay for under the terms of the contract. And I just want to understand it.
Yeah, I don't concur with the way you stated it there. What I would suggest is that the only additional services that were applied since, I guess, January of 15 are these that are here. I'd have to go back and try and define what those were. We've completed, under the terms of the contract, essentially 2 projects. We got through schematic design on one, and the previous board stopped us and said we want to go a different direction. So, that initiated new services. We presented that to that board, and the board authorized us to proceed in a new direction.
Presented what to the new board? You said that, presented that, what was that?
Let me try and state it again. So, we did a schematic design that was a certain layout. The board then decided to go in a new direction and asked us to begin again the schematic design phase. And that's what started from the 1114 invoices on.
I don't think that I think that all the board members today are different than what were present during the time frame that you're talking about.
Up until, right, the invoices of March of this year and the
Right.
the one last week.
So was there a discussion during any of the board meetings that essentially included, hey, listen, we started out with this project.
That's right.
We're well into it. If you make a change in direction as I'm hearing you, it's going to result in a substantial increase of our cost. Was there ever that discussion with the old board?
Our feeling is yes. Chuck was here for those meetings, and I think what would be appropriate is to try and look back through meeting minutes and try and document that.
Okay. Was there ever any correspondence that indicated that?
I'll look through our files. I'll see what I can find.
Because I'm the attorney for the board, and in some ways I speak for the board. I think the real concern here is that the board wants to build the best building that they can for the county, but they have a budget within which they need to operate. And if the architectural fees go from 7.5% to 12 to 15%, it's a substantial change, and there's got to be compromises in the service or the building that they're going to provide the county.
Well, I'm going to object to that description of the services. We haven't changed our fee. The previous board spent a certain amount, and the new board wants to go in a new direction. We're certainly willing to help them. But we haven't changed our fee basis. Every step along the way, we've honored the terms of our contract to the best of my knowledge.
Maybe I should have used the word budget, but the cost is definitely increased.
Understand.
I understand, the contract is in writing, the numbers did change on the piece of paper, I understand that. But it did contemplate a certain amount of money that was budgeted for the architectural fee. And that apparently is an amount that's going to exceed what they originally anticipated.
Sir.
And your letter tells us what we need to know, I think,
Good.
in terms of what it's going to cost to move forward, whether it's going back to an older design, which, I want to ask this question. If they go back to the older design, doesn't that take them back to that larger construction budget?
As it sits right here, so that's what and I apologize, folks, there's so many different options here that you're trying to understand. So my suggestion, option one was, yes, right now this is 14,000 square feet and 3.3 million. You want to be around 10,000 square feet. So I would have to, for the terms of the contract, modify my drawings, and that would be additional services. And that's what I said, we'd do those hourly rate. I can't tell you what that would be because I don't know what changes other than if I'm just going to lop off a third of the building, that's pretty easy. But I don't think that's what you're going to tell me, because this latest plan is different in terms of the layout. Stairs different, elevators different, bathrooms are different. Of course, it was obviously larger. So yes, we would have to first bring it back down to roughly 10,000 square feet as Codell to make sure that that design and construction budget works for the board. You gave us certain targets last week you were hoping for. And then once we were done with that, then we would finish up basically per the terms of the contract, which is a less costly option. So we tried to make that make sense for you.
So do those additional services, are those additional services contemplated in that $85,000 to $90,000?
No, sir. No, sir.
All right, so those additional services would be in addition to that estimate?
That's correct.
And you obviously can't tell us what that would be because you don't know what the changes are.
I don't know what changes you're going to ask me.
And then I think finally, my question then would be, on option 2, the $199,500 fee that's described in option 2, is that, I haven't done the math, is that the 7.5% of the 2.85?
I think this time I did it at 7 because I included, the last number they gave us was construction and CM, so then I tried to make the math simpler.
Okay, and would there be any credit then off of that number for monies that have been paid already?
No, sir.
So that's $199,500 from today forward.
Correct. Essentially from March forward.
Okay, for March 4th.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.
And I tried to break that out.
So is that the 177 then?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Right, so we gave you an invoice for the services from March till Friday.
Okay.
And so then the balance going forward
It will be the
177.
177. Anybody else have any questions?
I make a motion to go into closed session for litigation. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye, nays, ayes have it. All right, make a motion to come out of executive, go back in the records session. Hear a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye, nays, ayes have it. Okay. I make a motion that we terminate the contract with Murphy, Graves, and Trimble. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye. Aye. All in favor say, or opposed, nay. Ayes have it, motion carries.
We done.
So that takes care of that.
Meeting.
We gotta do the meeting. Did we need to talk here?
You make a motion.
Good luck to you folks.
Thank you.
You can make a motion.
To change the meeting? Yeah, I'll make it.
And I'll second
Okay.
to change the date from the 14th to the 16th.
To the 16th.
Our regular meeting.
Regular. 10
Just
o'clock.
for this, just for this
one
night.
time.
Yeah. At 10.
10 o'clock.
Don't let me forget that.
So I'm assuming, based on the first motion, that you all want us to send a letter giving those formal notice of termination. There also needs to be a motion to advertise for a request for proposal.
I'll make that motion to request a proposal, advertise for a new architect.
Okay, I think that can be done today. So then is it, probably the minutes should reflect that one of the agenda items on Thursday would be the consideration of the responses to the request for proposal, so that the board can act immediately on replacing architectural services.
I'm glad they did.
Which they will.
I think we got it.
Any other, of course, it is a special meeting, so all we can do is
Just what's on
what's
the
on the
agenda.
agenda, so.
We're done?
we're good.
Wait a second, I want to put that, I want the bonder to be here too.
For next meeting.
Yes, because, they come and got every bit of the paperwork they needed, right, Melanie?
They
Tell
got
me
our
they
last
stopped in here
audit.
and got everything?
The audit is requested.
The bonding company.
Okay, here's what I wanna do. Have the bonding company to, be here.
Do you want to just give me that when we create the agenda?
Yeah, go ahead and put that on the agenda right now
Yeah.
for
So,
next meeting.
yeah.
I definitely want him to be here. And I know you said they picked up a bunch of paperwork, everything they needed.
They just picked up the audits.
Okay, you, tell him that we are very concerned about a budget. And give him, anything and everything that he needs. As far as our income, our tax rates, and everything like that.
Okay.
And we need to be careful about the terminology of the new contract, that we don't leave a loophole for anything.
Well, right, well, and, you know, this is a standard form contract. All architects use it now. Not every provision that's in this is in every contract, but an
I
AI
make a motion to
contract
adjourn, do I hear a second?
is an industry standard contract. They don't just.
All in favor say aye.
Ah,
Yeah, they don't, it's not,
I was just trying to get the contract terminology.
I've looked at AI contracts before.
All right, meeting adjourned.
There's a